Andrew, good to see you again. Could you introduce yourself and your business?
Sure. No, good to meet you, Cormac. So I'm Andrew Pullman. I run a RegTech business called PeopleClear.
Mm,
We have a product called PeopleClear SMCR, which basically is focused on the financial services market, where post the financial crisis, everybody who is regulated
hmm
has to be certified every year as being fit, proper, and competent. And so we've designed a piece of technology, a SaaS product, which basically will help people in financial services firms manage that whole process, which is a mixture of people and compliance, uh,
mm.
and is necessary. It's a necessary thing that everybody has to do. So we thought we'd come up with something that would help them do that.
Okay, sounds great. So, if we can wind back to the start of it, how did this come about? Because it's quite a niche.
Yes, it is. It is. Well, my core business is actually an HR consultancy called People Risk Solutions,
Mm,
which has been running for about 18 years now. And we are focused on providing outsourced HR support to businesses. And when the financial crisis hit, and then post the financial crisis, um, new regulations were brought in to help do two things. One was to introduce a better culture to financial services, to make financial services a bit less like the Wild West
yeah.
and a bit more ordered. But
Yeah.
the other thing, which was most important, was around individual accountability. So it
Okay.
was about making sure that individuals took responsibility for the businesses that they're running,
Mm,
because post the financial crisis, or a lot of senior bankers, for instance, who said, "Well, it's not my responsibility. It's the board. It's everybody else." Whereas the government and the public, I think, felt that people had to take responsibility.
mm,
So the new regulations were brought in. They were called the Senior Management and Certification Regime,
mm.
which is a bit of a mouthful, or SM and CR, or we call it SMCR. It's easier,
Yeah.
uh, easier for the mouth.
Yeah.
Um, and these were brought in 2016 for banks initially,
hmm
and then after the banks had started doing it, it was decided by the regulators that actually this is quite good. Let's roll this out for all financial services firms.
Okay.
And so that's when I looked at it around 2018,
hmm
looked at it through the people lens and thought, well, hang on a second, why don't we create a piece of technology that will help organizations manage this whole thing?
Yeah.
Because you need to gather together a whole load of information. You need to collect evidence to prove that people are fit, proper, and competent.
hmm
Uh, and let's create a somewhere where you can store all of that. So rather than use spreadsheets, which are, of course, are notoriously unreliable,
Yeah.
let's create something that's bespoke. And the if you like, the sort of the image that I had in my mind, because around that time the accounting system called Zero was introduced.
hmm
And I thought, well, this is sort of a bit like Zero, but it's for regulation.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and that's really where the whole idea came from, really.
Okay, no, so it makes sense. It's a logical step by step. It's not you've gone in and said, oh, there's a big opportunity here,
Yeah.
and let's make loads of money. So it's been you've been in that space and noticed what's happening, and lots of people will still use Excel as their whole compliance function.
Yes.
Everything to as the Bible as such for the compliance team. So how how has it been? Because it's quite a traditional industry as well. So how has it been getting people to change their ways?
Well, interestingly, you've hit the nail on the head. This is the challenge because it's not just being stuck with or wanting to use spreadsheets. I mean, there's a lot of technology in areas of financial services like investment banking and most banking now, and obviously with AI coming in, everybody's all over technology like a rash.
hmm
However, there is still a reluctance sometimes to automate what you do. And
Mm.
one of the biggest challenges that we have is educating people about the benefits of automating, the amount of time that you can save, the money you can save effectively, and also you can then focus your time on more important issues.
Mm.
So the education piece is the challenge. And what I say to people often is selling consulting is relatively straightforward compared to selling technology. So one of the things that we do is we offer training and we also offer consulting. And often that starts with a diagnostic exercise to
Yeah.
come in and have a look at what they're doing and how they're doing it,
Mm.
and offering up suggestions on how they can improve it. And one of the ways, obviously, that they can improve things is to use some technology,
Yeah.
and streamline what they're doing. Because to be brutally honest, this is a fairly dry subject.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
isn't a
Yeah.
sexy subject.
Yeah.
You don't go in and say, "Hey, let's talk about HR and compliance and people
Yeah.
stuff," and people go, "Wow, this is fantastic."
Yeah.
You know, um, but it is a necessary evil, or it is a price for being in the market. If you're
Mm.
in financial services, then you have to do this, and you can either do it. You can do it one of two ways. You can either do it manually,
Mhm.
which is a real pain, or you can have a tool to help you do it.
Yeah.
And that's what we've tried to bring to the market, really.
Nice. Okay. And so it sounds like it's because you go in through the consultative approach because that's what they already know, understand, are used to. They're happy to pay consultants. Maybe they already pay consultants in other fields.
Yes.
So
Sometimes that's the case. Again, some firms don't like paying people externally to come in and help. They like to try and do it themselves. So that, every client is slightly different. They've all got a slightly different perspective on it. But what we have been doing is, as I say, educating people about the benefits, and
Mm.
gradually we're making some progress. And so, we've been running now for a couple of years. In fact, I almost sold the business a year and a half ago to an American company that came along, and we're looking to break into the UK market. But at the last minute, they pulled out and changed their strategy.
Mm.
But that proved to me that this was something that potentially had some value down the road,
Yeah.
but you've got to make it work. And that's what we're busily doing at the moment, is gradually building up the client base to make it work.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And so there's that business in America. Are they doing a similar thing for a regulation over there? Is
Well, they were a large compliance business that was trying to break, or was beginning to break into the UK,
Hmm.
and the UK market. And so, but they identified that one of the areas where they needed to have some technology was around the the SMCR space, because a lot of their clients were asking about that. So that's why they wanted to do it. But then they decided to go a different route, and not put so much emphasis on the UK. So
Okay. No, fair enough. And is there many competitors doing a similar thing to you in the UK? Because I find that when I hear that it's a longer educational process, it tends to mean that there's not as many competitors. It's more blue.
yeah, there are some competitors. Typically, um, almost all the competitors have an element of a much larger product, a much larger compliance product,
Okay.
that they're selling. So they're offering a complete compliance solution with SMCR as part of it, whereas we are focusing on the sort of small to medium size part of the marketplace, where we're offering an off-the-shelf, virtually plug-and-play solution to
Hmm.
add it to a sort of tech stack of other things that people would have. So these are smaller companies that don't need the full-blown compliance system that's all singing, all dancing, but they do need to do this part of the regulations, and
Mm.
so it can be done quite straightforwardly, and it can be implemented quite straightforwardly. It doesn't take weeks and weeks to implement this. It literally takes a couple of weeks, and we can get it up and running.
Yeah.
Um, so, so the simple answer is yes, there are competitors, but there are different there aren't very many, if any, who are laser focused just on providing this solution.
Okay, okay. And does that mean that it's been hard or easy for you to work out pricing? Have you just said, okay, well, we offer this part and that's makes up this much of other people's full costs, so we charge this, or how have you gone about pricing?
We've looked at the marketplace. We've looked at what competitors are charging for similar products and similar sorts of um, solutions, and
Mhm.
also other products like things like Zero and similar sort of SaaS type solutions. And so we've tried to price things fairly competitively, um, and in such a way that it isn't a massive great blow to the budget to
Mhm.
use this. Um, and it's certainly a lot cheaper than some of the big HR systems that are out there. I won't name any, but there are some large ones that are around the place, and they're very expensive to implement and also to license.
Yeah.
Whereas we're I think, very competitive, and offer a neat way of solving an issue that you have to do,
Mm.
and you can do it one or two ways, and we offer a way that I think is cost effective, and also importantly, as part of the regulations, the senior managers within the organizations, the financial services organizations, have to demonstrate what's called reasonable steps to the regulator. So one of their key things from a regulatory standpoint is to demonstrate to the regulator that they're taking all reasonable steps to do the right things in terms of regulation.
Okay.
And this is a neat solution to tick that box for them, to demonstrate that with a small investment of some technology, they can show that they are doing the right thing, and
Yeah.
therefore, it makes the regulator comfortable that they're doing the right things.
Yeah. So it's not only the time that you're selling and saving people, but it's also that peace of mind because
Yeah, exactly. It's like a sort of first line of defense. Um, and one of the direction of travel
Mm.
for RegTech is quite high at the moment. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of focus on it, particularly with AI. And I went to a regulatory conference a couple of weeks ago, where for the first time that I've heard or seen, the regulators, the FCA in this case, um, were actually, which is the Financial Conduct Authority, were actually encouraging conversation and discussion with solutions that support the regulations that they want to do. Whereas in the past, they tended to keep people at sort of arm's length.
Mm.
But now they're recognizing the growth of the RegTech sector. And globally, RegTech, in various numbers floating around, but the RegTech market is estimated by 2030 to be somewhere around $30 billion
Yeah.
globally. So it's a marketplace that exists and everyone is piling in. So it makes sense you know, to use the technology.
Definitely. No, I completely agree. So you sell into senior managers and you sell into compliance functions.
Yes, it's a mixture. It depends on the organization. It is a mixture of the C-suite. So it could be CEOs, COOs, chief financial officers. HR are typically involved because it's a people focus, but also compliance. Compliance are the people who manage the relationship with the regulators. So the buyers, if you like, so looking at it from a sales and marketing perspective, which I
Mhm.
know is what you're interested in,
Yeah.
um, it's quite a broad church,
Mhm.
because they're all involved. So
Yeah.
there isn't one function that you know does it all, and they all have to get involved in some way.
Yeah. 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 So you probably end up having to take more of an account-based sales approach instead of a mass market approach with
Y-
firms.
Yes, yes, it is very much working out with the organization which is the function that is interested in this and owns it.
Mhm.
And then obviously who's got the budget for it, because ultimately you need to get to the people who have the purse strings on this and can authorize the expenditure. And quite often, and most often, it is a regulatory expenditure, so it comes out of compliance
Mhm.
rather than human resources,
Yeah,
which often is lower down the pecking order, if you like, in terms of um, buying technology.
yeah.
But it depends. In some firms, it is HR led,
Mm.
so you can't take it for granted, and therefore we have to be flexible when we're going out to the marketplace and talking to people.
Mm. Okay, okay. And from my experience, it's harder to get in front of compliance and HR people versus speaking to senior managers like sales directors, CEOs. I find that's a lot easier to get in front of because they tend to be on the phone as well instead of just on email. Um,
Right, right.
how have you found that experience?
Again, it's a mixed bag. It's very different. I mean, I think it's coming from the sort of HR space.
Mm.
I'm familiar with the HR community, and we've got a ready-made sort of base of people to go and talk to who we have been talking to, and gradually getting them on board. So that is less scary, if you like. We know the HR world. We also know the compliance world reasonably well, and the senior managers, the C-suite at various organizations as well.
Mm.
And given that we're speaking to small to medium-sized firms, often people are wearing several hats.
Yeah.
So again, that will mean that it will vary who we're talking to. I mean, ultimately, the senior managers within the organization are the ones that will make the final decisions on these things. And
Mm.
also, it's benefiting them because as senior managers, they are responsible for the regulatory activity of the organization, and they'll be the first people that the regulator will go and speak to if there's a problem.
Yeah, yeah, it's in their best interest. Okay, so
Mm.
what channels have you got? Any winning channels at the moment for reaching out to people? Sorry to interrupt. I'll let you get back to the podcast in a second. Hopefully, you're enjoying it so far. I wanted to let you know that our sales performance meter, that is usually an internal tool, we're giving away to everyone. Well, everyone that watches our podcast at least. So it's the first link in the comments, and it gives you a score on how your sales motion is performing. You may be thinking, yes, I already know how my sales team's performing. We make X amount of revenue, we do this, do that, but it identifies gaps or highlights what you're doing well and gives you recommendations of how to fix it. And it takes 2 minutes and it's completely free. So if there's anyone that's in a business that's maybe the execs or the founder or they're involved in sales at all, you should be taking this scorecard. You should be, if you've clicked on this podcast and you've watched it to this point, you definitely have 2 minutes to find out how your sales team's performing. So answer the multiple choice questions and let me know your score in the comments or message me on LinkedIn. Or if you did it and you thought it was completely pointless and you didn't get any value from it, then message me on LinkedIn and I will pay you back for your time. That's how confident I am in the scorecard. But I'll let you go back to the podcast now.
Winning channels. Well, that's the sort of, I suppose that's the yes, that's the sort of perfect scenario, isn't it? Where you just press a button and go straight into the winning channel. I wouldn't describe them as being winning channels. I think we're going. I mean, I've spent the last year or so building a proper sales engine,
Okay.
which is something that we didn't have in the first year or two that we started out. We were beginning as it was very much early days. We first of all, having got kicked the business off, we went in order to develop the tool and develop the technology. We won an Innovate UK Smart Grant,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
gave us over an 18-month period a chunk of money to help develop the product and make it, even better than the sort of the MVP that we came up with. And then, we were going out to market, talking to lots of people, but it became clear that we needed a proper sales engine to make this work. And so I spent last summer hiring a head of business development,
Hmm.
and together we created a sales engine, with starting with a proper CRM, getting some, looking at lead generation, um, what sort of marketplace to go to. LinkedIn is quite a useful place to go to for people because increasingly, I think it is the marketplace to go to get to people.
Hmm.
Um, and so that's quite a rich vein for us.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and then also recommendations, referrals, all that sort of stuff is really helpful as well.
Mm, okay. Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. I think the power of LinkedIn is because for me, is you can connect with them, you can message them, but you can leave the door open and not go too salesy. And as long as you actually post on LinkedIn, they can't
Yes.
hit you. So it's that constant touch points. Even if they don't reply or go ahead straight away, they will constantly see things from you, which
Yes. I
helps
mean,
with.
our approach is very much, I'm a practitioner. I used to be um, an HR director. I still am in many ways because I still get involved on the HR side of
Yeah.
things with various clients. And so I look at it through a practitioner's perspective of what I would want, by being approached with a new product, with something that can help me do the job better.
Hmm.
What I don't want to be is sold to in a very salesy way. That puts me off immediately. So we try not to do that. We try to approach, sow some seeds, and gradually, get people to understand the benefits, rather than go in all hard, you
Yeah.
know, beating the door down,
Yeah.
which in my experience never works terribly well. And also it's about building relationships because this is a relationship business. We're looking for people to sign up initially for 3 years, um, and work with us, and we work with them. And we're not just looking for the transaction. It's
Mm,
more than that.
mm,
And it's a very small market. I mean, I've been working in, banking and private, investment banking and private banking for, you know, over 30 years now. And, you know, it's a very small marketplace. And it's amazing how you come across people you might have worked with years ago who suddenly pop up.
yeah.
And in fact, a number of our clients are people that I've worked with in the past. So it is all about building good relationships, um, and coming up and offering and being there with a solution at the right time. Because
Hmm.
sometimes it's all about timing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not the right time, and the right time might be in 6 months' time.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And then suddenly, there's a dawning of, oh my gosh, we need to do this. Where are
Yeah.
we going to go?
Yeah. 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 And it's so I think with that, my advice to people is always you can't close a deal, you can't sell a product on the first message, but you can burn the relationship on the first message.
Yes.
So always taking the approach of if yeah, and like you do, sit from the other side. So if I'm receiving this message, what would I think? Would I think it's just another salesperson trying to sell me something and trying to make some money and they don't really care? Or is it someone that's actually interested in if the solution will help?
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, and it's I mean, of course, I'm running a business. I'm a businessman at the end of the day, but
mm,
it's about how you grow your business. And you know, I like to think that we get a lot of repeat business because people like working with us
yeah.
and because they trust us. And it's about trust, and it's about and also with a product like this, with a tech product, it, talking to lots of people who've been unhappy with products that they've got. It's not just the way some of these technology products work. It doesn't, they don't like the way it works, so it's a bit clunky.
Mm,
Because we've tried to design something that is very user friendly. We started with the user experience and we work backwards.
Yeah, nice.
Whereas often people build the technology and then, as an afterthought, think about the user experience.
Yeah.
Um, but the other thing is, I think it's important to you know look at it from that perspective. How can I use this? How can I make life easier for
Mm.
people, and easy to use, and demystify? Because a lot of consulting firms, for instance, try and go out there and make things more complicated,
Yeah.
and so therefore you need us because it's so complicated and it's so difficult. But
Mm.
we've done the opposite. We wanted to demystify. We want to try and make the regulations easy to understand. Sometimes that involves a bit of education, but also we've designed the technology rather like if you go bowling. I
Hmm.
don't know if you've been 10-pin bowling, but you know that if you're not terribly good at bowling, you can have the side, and if you've got kids with you, for instance, you can bring the sides up
Yeah.
so that the ball doesn't disappear down into the
Yeah.
trench on either side. Well, we've designed something where the bars are up on the sides so that you're doing the right things in a
Mm.
streamlined way,
Mm.
that you tick the boxes that you need to do in order to meet the criteria that you have to do, but in a sensible way that doesn't make life a nightmare for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. No, it makes sense. So, what's your plans for the year ahead? What are your goals, your aspirations?
Well, we're looking to continually grow what we've got. I think we've got the solution where we need it at the moment. We're always looking for new avenues. So it's twofold really. One is to grow the business, and get more people on board
Hmm.
using PeopleClear SMCR. Um, but also looking at other markets, because at the moment the the, the SMCR, the senior management certification regime, is a UK market, and
Mm.
this is a UK regulation, but there are similar regulations elsewhere that are coming into play. So a year or so ago, Ireland brought in a similar set of regulations, which is very similar to SMCR, but they called it SEIR.
Mm.
Um, Also, places like Australia, Singapore have got similar regulations, and Europe is looking at similar regulations as well. So we've got half an eye on that and looking forward, if you like, over the horizon in
Mm.
terms of ways that we can develop the product to go into those marketplaces. But for now, it's very much, feet on the ground in the UK, focused on the market that we have in front of us,
Yeah.
and then build on that, hopefully.
Maximizing that. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Okay, Andrew, where should people go if they're interested in your solution, or if they just want to have a chat, have any more questions? Where should people go?
Well, we've got a website, peopleclear.co.uk, which is out there. There's lots of details on there how to get in contact with us. We can have a chat initially. We can do a very easy demo. There's a short video on there which shows you how it all works. Takes about 2 minutes.
Nice.
So whatever route people want to go, we're happy to do a quick demo, show you how it works, and see how that we can help.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thanks for coming on, Andrew. That's the podcast.
Cormac, thank you very much. Cheers.